And while it was painful to let go and painful to have all these shifts so fast, I also recognized the shedding was a part of my journey. It was part of my self growth, my self discovery. Hey everyone, welcome to A Talk with G, where we explore the profound connection between identity, spirituality, and the stories that shape us. I'm your host, Gia, and today I would like to share a part of my personal journey of changing my name, being given a Vedic and Western name at birth, using only a stricken Western name, and then using my correct Vedic name currently. A transition deeply tied to my personal growth and my heritage. Growing up in a large Hindu family, names hold a significance for us. In our culture, a name is not just a label, it is a reflection of our destiny, our dharma. My family, steeped in tradition, gave us both a Vedic name and a Western name. We all believe, or a few of us believe, that a name carries a certain power, and when fallen into the wrong hands, can bring danger to the person. My mother is the youngest of 14 kids. Her and my aunts and uncles and grandparents migrated to North America in the early 80s, just when she was a teenager. I, along with the majority of my cousins, was born in North America. Our upbringing was deeply rooted in the culture and our traditions. To help us adapt to the Western society and protect us, most of my aunts and uncles, mother included, chose a Western name for our first name, and our Vedic name then became a middle name or just wasn't put on our birth certificate. So we have these two names that we have one for everyday use that we give people, and then we have one for our prayers. For years, I lived with my name as Ashley, my Western name, a name that was comfortably fit into society. It was comfortably placed neatly on my school records. However, it didn't truly resonate with my inner self. And my Vedic name that was given to me at birth by my mother's sister, her twin sister to be exact, because she has many sisters, which is a beautiful name in its own, I never used it. I never really got to explore myself much with that unless it was around family. In many cultures, names are believed to hold energy and influence. In Hinduism, there is a saying that a person's name can affect their faith. This concept often made me reflect my own journey. Because I used Ashley for everything and towards everyone at a very young age, I felt out of balance. I felt, was I living up to my past? Was I following my destiny? Was faith rewriting things for me? I want you all to take a moment and think about your own name. What does it mean to you? Who gave it to you? How does it connect to your identity? These questions are at the heart of the discussion today, and they kind of lead to how I transitioned out of these different names and into something that is now rewriting my destiny, so to speak, or at least getting me back on to my destined path. Ashley was a social comfort. It was easy to spell. I had cute little name tags that I could find on little racks, and it was there for society to see me that blended in. But when I really thought about the name Ashley and myself, it just didn't blend. It's like taking two puzzle pieces and forcing it together. Because it was such a common name, I didn't feel special. And not that anyone named Ashley shouldn't feel special. It's just my personal perspective was I remember not feeling special. I remember feeling so common. I also remember being one of 6 Ashleys in elementary school. There was nothing uniquely special it didn't feel right for me at least. Began my spiritual journey at a young age. And to say the least, it wasn't always something I stayed on. I did connect with my roots throughout the years, but then I always got redirected for some reason. I would be great following this tradition and keeping certain perspectives up to date, but then I would fall off and revert to my Western ways, like trying to fit in. And as I got older, I truly started to embrace my spiritual journey. I felt more called to connect to my roots, like dive into my family's history. We're such a large family. And I was curious, why don't any of us use these names? And again, I did fall off a bit with this journey, but a specific significance for me, was that when I had my daughter, I took a turning point. I think that was the first shake from the universe, I guess you could say. About 9 years ago, give or take, I was struggling with her name. I wanted to keep it completely traditional, honoring our heritage. Her father wanted to keep it completely traditional because he kept reminding me that your name is writing your destiny. But then I kept reverting back to what my family had done with our names. So I was torn by, oh my God, I was raised that I had to protect her and giving her name was wrong. And then here I am with her father telling me, no, you don't give her the wrong name. It changes things. I was so torn with things I had grown up, things I'm learning, things I'm researching. You see, in Hindu tradition, your Vedic name is chosen based on a sequence of letters determined by your birth date and time. You typically receive about 5 choices, each carrying its own significance. So as I'm discovering this, learning all this about my traditions, learning more about my roots, despite everything I was taught, because I was taught this, I just never used it into full effect because I didn't really have a reason to. But now taking it into my own hands and becoming the parent in this situation, it's when I decided to deep dive more. So I made this cute list, if you would say, even at that. And I say cute because I had the most amazing names that I felt. I had boys' names, I had girls' names, I had Western, and I had Vedic names for both the genders. And I was like, wow, at the end of it all, I had this huge list of names. And when I say huge list of names, I think I had 52 names picked out. When time presented itself and she made her entry to the world, and I gave our pandit, our priest, her birth date and time, none of the names I had found and fell in love with were on her sequence list that I was given. There was a lot of confusion for me. I was so frustrated because I'm like, I spent all this time handpicking names, and I could have done what my mother did. I could have given her a name I loved and then gone along with a Vedic name as a middle name. But I then realized in the heat of the moment, I had the chance to let her destiny take hold. So I did something exceptionally creative for her. I took the letters given, I chose another name, and I combined it, and they worked out so beautifully that her name in Hindi means God's precious gift, an illusion. And because I went with my instinct of making sure I let her destiny write the way it was meant to be with her main letters, I got to create this uniquely beautiful name in my own way. You see, as I did that beautiful creation for her, it took me back to my Vedic name. My name was Jasmine. It's a Disney princess. It's a beautiful flower. It's everything you can imagine. Jasmines are white and pure, and they're just so fragrant. Think of like the sense of a perfume or a candle. Even colognes have jasmine mixed in it, I won't even lie. But when I thought to hone in on that name, I couldn't capture the essence of my true self. I couldn't imagine going around saying, "Hi, I'm Jasmine." It just didn't feel connected. It was wonderful, but it wasn't connected. And here I go, naming my daughter, feeling great about it, but also ignoring that feeling for myself and falling back on the other road of my journey here. I went back to my Western side and I was like, oh, okay, I'll figure this out one way or another. And I put it off to the side again. As I continue with my journey on and off, my daughter wasn't even one. I would say she was about like maybe 9, 10 months at this point, maybe less. But this moment in her life became a huge awakening for me. You see, we took her to temple and the pandit went around and asked us to share our names. Her father and I gave her name, which was correct because it was on her birth chart, like it was the letters. We gave his name, And then when it came to me, I didn't know which way to answer. I had my Vedic name, it was Jasmine. But in the back of my head, I keep using Ashley. So why not give that if we're doing prayers for blessings? That's what I want to be blessed with. If I'm presenting this name on jobs and meeting people, why would I not use that name? And here birthed this beautiful confusion for me because I just didn't know which way to go. But I had to give something at that moment. And at that moment, I gave Ashley Jasmine. And that was a bigger awakening for me at that point. You see, as soon as the prayers begun, I noticed everyone focused. And maybe I shouldn't have been paying attention to everyone, but I did. However, I couldn't focus. I kept feeling this shaking feeling within me, like a turbulence. And it wasn't like, oh my God, I'm like feeling connected. It was, oh my God, I'm getting disconnected. I'm not here with everybody. I'm too busy looking at my surroundings and not enjoying the service in front of me. And it was at that moment that I realized I had not been authentic to myself. I had been going by my Western name, not sure when to give my Vedic name that my mother gave me, her sister gave me. It was at that moment that I knew part of that name, Ashley Jasmine, was filling, which was Jasmine, but it did not complete me in a whole. And it was then that I took it upon myself to get my birth chart reread a few times. I did it twice online, and I went to 2 different Pandits priests to do it, to verify my significant letters, to verify the 5 sequence that was given to my aunt, to make sure I was in complete alignment. To my surprise, and I don't technically think I was surprised, I think I wanted to be surprised, Jasmine wasn't aligned because the beginning letters were not part of my sequence. It would have been in my sequence if I was born slightly earlier. And that's what shifts it. That's why it's so important to know your birth time, because that little shift could change things. And when I realized that, when I was told that, and I was told that by one person, one online, it was multiple, all 4 aligned together. So I'm not sure what had changed back all those years when my aunt got it. But that's what brought me to start exploring the letters that was given to me, that were part of my sequence, that truly resonated with me. And imagine having to rename yourself. I took this situation to my mother and my aunt, and they're like, no, it's fine. You'll be okay. Like, this was what showed up. And I'm like, but it doesn't feel aligned. And they're like, are you sure? Like, they're my biggest supporters. They will always support me. They'll always back me up. Sometimes they think I'm rambling. But when I gave them the science behind it and the time and everything that was given and the spirituality tied to it, they agreed with me. And this started the journey of looking for my correct name. And it wasn't like I found it immediately after learning this. Again, I stepped off my path and I continued another way until I realized I was not fulfilling myself. I was literally doing tasks in a different perspective that wasn't aligning with myself. I kept feeling something missing. So I finally sat down one day and I looked at my letters again. And I wanted something short. I wanted something simple. I didn't want to give up Jasmine because my aunt gave it to me. And it was significant just because of that. Even though it didn't align with my chart, it was part of who I was. I was completely ready to give up Ashley in anything legality. I didn't want to give up Jasmine. And here birthed Gia. I couldn't even tell you when I first saw the name. I can't even reconcile. Like I just can't take you back to that moment. There's no words to it. But when I saw the name Gia, it felt calling. It felt connective. And in Hindi, Gia means God is gracious. And when I decided to keep Gia with Jasmine, putting them together, it's grace of life, sweetness that comes from embracing who we are. I did a few research. It took a while to get there. But Using Gia Jasmine symbolizes the qualities I desperately wanted to embrace as I navigated through this turbulence of my life. It's now that I've stepped back on my path and realized that this name was essential for me to rewrite, or not even rewrite, to correct my destiny. As I began to embrace Gia, I started noticing how my interactions shifted. People responded to me differently. I felt more empowered to express my true self. Opportunities began to appear to me, opening new doors. However, along this path, I started to lose people. I found myself drifting away from certain relationships that felt suffocating. I could no longer go to certain environments that were not ready to embrace change, or where I felt I couldn't be this person. I couldn't live through my actual name, where negativity lingered more than positivity took over to embrace everyone. I also started to use my voice more. When I was living as Ashley, I would have never spoke on a podcast to have people hear my voice, millions of people listening. I wouldn't have made the videos that I make. But as I became more authentic with myself and embracing Gia, my throat started to feel free. It's like I took the blockage off my throat chakra and embraced my authenticity. It became clear to me that some parts of my life, things I dreamt of doing, like speaking publicly, was withheld because I wasn't in my authentic self. How could you do certain things and be authentic if you weren't actually living your authentic way? And while it was painful to let go and painful to have all these shifts so fast, I also recognized the shedding was a part of my journey. It was part of my self growth, my self discovery. Making the decision to switch back my entire name, or switch my name in general, because it's not even switching back. I renamed myself, was not easy. I grappled with fears and doubts with my friends and family understand. Would it change how people view me? Would it change how I interact with people even more? Yet, deeply down, I knew this was a crucial step for me towards my authenticity. Initially, I hid this decision from my family and friends. In fact, I still made it public knowledge to everyone, and not out of fear, but I believe that those who need to know will come to know and understand in their own time. I trust the universe will present the situation for them to grasp when the moment is right, if you get what I mean. This approach allowed me to process my own feelings and embrace my new identity without pressure from external expectations, having to explain myself to my entire family or friends. And it was a deeply personal journey. I wanted to feel grounded in my decision before sharing it widely. I did spend nights contemplating, journaling my thoughts, like weighing the pros and cons. But ultimately, I realized that living authentically was worth it. It was worth the risk of discomfort. It was worth shedding that layer. But going forward in my life, I do introduce myself as Gia. I feel profoundly shifted every time I use that. Every time it goes, "What's your name?" And I say Gia, like I have this fire within me that's lighting me up. It's liberating. I'm embodying the energy of my name, which helps me navigate my spiritual path. For anyone that doesn't know, in Hindu philosophy, an idea reinforced through various practice, like chanting a name, carries energy and intuition when being chanted. So when we do our meditations or mantras or chanting, often invokes specific energies connected to the name being chanted. As we wrap up the first episode, I encourage you to reflect on your own name and its meaning. Are there aspects of your identity that you've embraced or rejected? How can you begin to align more closely with who you truly are? I invite you to write down 3 things or 3 words that describe how you feel about your name. Reflect on these feelings and how they connect to your identity. And remember, your name is just the beginning of your story. Embrace it and let it guide you towards your true self. Thank you for joining me on the first episode of A Talk with G. I'm excited to share more of my journey with you all and hear your stories too. If you're interested in exploring your spirituality, identity, and the narratives that shape who we all are, make sure you subscribe and stay tuned for our next episode. I'd love to hear from all of you. Also, feel free to reach out to me on social media or through my website where we can continue this conversation. Share your name and story with me. I want to know how it shapes you. Until next time, take care and remember your name holds power. Embrace it.